Hey everyone! So I know the title of this video sounds clickbaity, but I promise it's not because I did the math and I will tell you how I did the math. You just keep watching. Alright y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jessica and today we are talking about how I cut my drafting process time down by 95%. So a little background information and I'll let you know how I arrived at this number. So the book that I have coming out this fall, The Girls of Fall, took about 10 years to finish. That's a really long time. So I never really had what I would call a first draft because I was always tinkering with it, always fiddling around with it. I would keep going over and over the same chapters, the same words I already had, and not making any forward momentum towards the end. So we're just calling it 10 years. And it's actually probably been more than 10 years because the idea was first a short story for one of my classes in college. And that has been longer than 10 years ago. So for the sake of simplicity, in my math problem, we're calling it 10 years. And so then the contemporary new adult novel that I worked on, that I started last year, only took me 5 months to draft. And so that is where I got my 95%. 5 months of 10 years is 95%. Yes, I think so. I'm not a math person, so don't judge me. So in this video, I am going to tell you everything I did in order to cut that drafting process down. And this was really motivated by, I had to have a little pep talk with myself. Like, Jessica, if you want to be an indie author, you have got to write faster. You have got to be able to do less than 10 years to write a book. That is a really long time. So I really went into working on this romance novel with that in mind. Like, if you want to do this and make a go at this career, you have to get faster. You have to cut this drafting time. So, I did. I was successful in doing that. So I am going to tell you everything that I did to make that happen. And I have my notes right here. So if you see me look down, it's because I'm looking at my notes so that I don't forget any of my points, because I have the memory of a goldfish. Okay, so here we go. Number 1, write a blurb. A blurb can also be known as your back cover copy or the description of your book that would be on a sales landing page like on Barnes & Noble or Amazon or Google Play, all that kind of good stuff. If you want to be an indie author, you're going to have to learn how to write this copy anyway. So it's good practice to go ahead and try to do it before you write the book, because you're going to have to do it at the end anyway. So the reason I would recommend writing a blurb is because, so a blurb is basically, it's marketing copy. It is selling your book to audiences. So you need to know what about your book is sellable, is marketable. And if you have trouble doing that, you might need to take another look at your book idea if you can't distill it down into its most basic parts. So when you have the blurb, you have the main character, you've got her, their, whoever that is, you've got their internal and external motivations, you have the conflict, and you have, you got the inciting incident, what is going to propel this character into action, and you've got a little hint at the end. So having this all in place before you get started with the actual writing gives you kind of like a roadmap of where you want to go. So I actually had the blurb for Sometimes Love Ain't Enough written years before I started actually writing the book. Because I just, I had my kernel of an idea, and then I distilled it down into its most basic parts, which kept me on track. And then, so when this is officially finished, I can then have, I have this marketing copy ready to go, maybe just needing some tweaking, but it helped keep me on the right path. And so that kind of leads me into tip number 2. Do an outline. Okay. There are lots of different opinions on outlining, also called plotting, versus pantsing, where you just, you fly by the seat of your pants and you do not have any kind of outlining notes of where you want to go. That can also be called discovery writing. You might hear that as well, where you don't have a roadmap and you just kind of think, you're free to do whatever you want. Things are just kind of happening, as you go along. And some writers work really well doing that. I have discovered that I am not one of those writers. That is part of what took me so long to write The Girls of Fall, because I did not know what was happening next or what needed to happen next. And so I was taking a lot of breaks to think about those kind of things instead of doing the work beforehand of having that groundwork laid out. So I did not have to start and stop thinking about what was going to happen next because I already had it plotted out. Now, I did not go ham with my outline. It is 3 pages. I basically Frankensteined Sarah Cannon's, so author Sarah Cannon. If you sign up to her newsletter, you can get some free downloads. So she has a plotting worksheet. And so I basically Frankensteined her plotting worksheet, which is a basic 3-act structure with the beat sheet from Save the Cat Writes a Novel. And you've heard me talk about Save the Cat Writes a Novel because it is life-changing. So I Frankenstein those 2 resources together. So I have 3 pages of beats, and I literally just went and put in, 1 sentence for each beat. So it wasn't, I didn't have pages and pages and pages of outlining notes. It was just literally, here's what happened, here's my inciting incident, here's what the climax is, here's what the resolution is, so that I didn't get stuck and have to redo that. Well, and the funny thing is, I didn't even do the whole outline before I started. I had the first act pretty solid, which got me through about 25,000 words, and then I did have to stop and outline the middle, and then I had to stop and outline the end. But I still had an outline. And then I just had a scene list of a bunch of random scenes that I might want to include, might not include, stuff like that. So if you're struggling and need to work faster, I would always recommend doing an outline. Okay. Number 3, start your novel during a fun time of the year. So if you are familiar, if you are in the writing community, there are a couple, global events a year, sponsored by National Novel Writing Month, where writers get together, with the same kind of goal. So you've got National Novel Writing Month in November, which is the big one. And then you also have Camp Nano in July. And so the reason why I recommend starting at these points in time is because a lot of other people are writing during these times of the year. And since writing is such a solitary endeavor, these are really good opportunities to build your writing community and meet like-minded people who are all working on the same goals. Because I know us writers can seem a little strange and off to non-writers, and not everybody understands what we do or what we're trying to do. So building that community of writers around you really helps with motivation and momentum. So I started Sometimes Love Ain't Enough in November for National Novel Writing Month last year. I did not win, so I did not get all my 50,000 words in November. I got about 26,000, so halfway there. And then I finished it in March, actually. So my goal for book 2 in this series, I plan to do the same thing. So I plan to start the actual writing of the project in November. And then hopefully I might try to cut my drafting process down again because I think I burned out in November last year. So then December and January were kind of a wash word count wise because I needed to kind of refill my creative well, take a little break. So I'm thinking if I don't push towards 50 in November and I push towards 25 and then 25 in December and January, I might be able to shave a couple more months off my drafting process. So we will see. Next point, got to consult my note. Let people know your goals. So like I said, writing can be very solitary, you know, and you're just doing it for yourself for the longest time until you have really grown your audience and grown your community. So letting people know, so I basically tracked all my progress on, you know, Instagram, and I let people know what I was doing. I let them know I was shooting for 50,000 words. I, you know, chronicled the ups and downs, you know, in my stories and stuff. So people could know where I'm at. So that they could ask how I'm doing, you know, and kind of cheer you on. So, you know, shout out to all my Instagram friends who were so committed to me finishing this draft, because you all definitely, you know, held me accountable. So I definitely appreciate everyone who was invested in that first draft journey. So that's why I think you should let people know, you know, what you're doing and what your goals are, so they can be invested in this first draft journey with you, and help you with motivation. Next up is to embrace a messy first draft. So there is a lot of popular writing advice that says, you know, to embrace a shitty first draft. Like, your first draft's going to be shitty. It's going to be crap. You just have to embrace it and get over it. I agree to that to an extent, but I like using the word messy instead, because I don't believe a first draft has to be shit. I went back and read my, you know, first draft. So I'm working on draft 2. So I went back and read the first draft of Sometimes Ain't It, forgot my title, Sometimes Love Ain't Enough, and I don't think that it's shit. I actually like it a lot. I thought I did a pretty good job, you know, fast drafting, and I don't think I'm going to lose a lot of those words. I do intend to make it longer because there were like missing scenes and stuff like that, but I am not going to be deleting a whole bunch of words because I think they're crap, because I don't think they're crap. So some things that I did that made my draft messy were, so I didn't work in Microsoft Word. I worked in Google Docs, which is new to me. And I didn't change any of the fonts. So the standard, I think it's Arial. I didn't do like paragraph breaks or anything like that. I didn't have it organized into chapters. I organized it by date when I was writing it. So it was just, you know, all, you know, the whole thing was in, you know, Google Docs organized by date. I skipped scenes. I left scenes unfinished. I made notes like in the document, like, you know, insert more sexy time here. Finish scene. You know, so-and-so, they need to go to the cafe and do this, you know, blah, blah, blah. So stuff like that. So I basically did not make it look like a manuscript, because I think that takes some of the pressure off. So, you know, it's not a manuscript, it's not a finished book, it's a first draft. It doesn't have to look like a manuscript. So that's what I kind of mean, like messy. Like, don't do chapters the first time around. That was step one in my revision process, was to organize it into chapters. You know, just let it be, you know, let the text be messy, let it be playful. Don't try to mold it, this first draft, into looking like a finished book when you're just drafting, to take some of that internal pressure off. Next up is to stay mobile. So this basically means be able to write anywhere, anytime. So I do believe in like writing spaces and, you know, writing routines and stuff like that. But when you have other things going on, like a day job, children, a family, you might not be able to keep an ideal writing routine. So there's not a whole lot of point in beating yourself up about it and trying to stick to a specific writing schedule, which is why my recommendation would be to stay mobile, so that anytime you have a thought or an idea or a sentence pops into your head, you can write it down without losing it, or without, you know, thinking you have to get back to your writing space in order to write that down. Which is why I love Google Docs as well, because I can access it on my phone. So if I'm, you know, lying in bed, and I did do this, I'm lying in bed, I think of a sentence or a scene, I just open the doc, find it, and I type it in. I do know there are writers who write significantly on their phones. I don't think I could do that because it would be agonizingly slow for me. I'm a really fast typer, so I would prefer typing on a laptop or a computer. But, you know, if you write it all on your phone, you know, you've still written it. So just, you know, don't get too hindered by thinking you have to be in the right space at the right time. One of the actual downsides of being fully work from home, at least for me, is that my office has turned into a day job workspace and not a creative space for me. So I was really finding myself not wanting to be in here after the workday was done. And then, as you can see behind me, I was on a desktop computer. I did have a little laptop, but it died, and I had not, you know, made the decision to purchase a new one yet, because I'm like, you know, I might not need it. But I did eventually do that, and that helped a lot, because then I could take my work to the kitchen table, I could take it to the couch, take it to, you know, my bed, whichever was more convenient for me, just to get out of this space that did not feel creative for me anymore. So anything you have to do to take your work somewhere else, you know, go ahead and do that if you need to. Next one. Oh, and this is my last one. So my last and final point for fast drafting is absolutely no editing until the first draft is done. This was one of my personal weaknesses as well. I would just go back and I would reread what I had already written, and I would edit it. So I had some really great polished work, but the work was not finished. So you can't have there's no point to having a great polished 5 chapters when the work is not finished. So that is one thing I absolutely did not do while drafting Slay, was to go back and reread parts of it. I did not read any of it until I was done. And then I was surprised that, you know, that I didn't hate it, that it was still pretty good, because I just wanted to finish it. And editing and revisions can come later. You know, you just have to let it go, and you just have to get to the end. So my main character and her roommate had a cat in like chapter 1, and then, you know, 20,000 words later, there's no cat. And I was like, you know, oh well. We will go back when it's finished and, you know, add the cat or take the cat out, whichever works best for the story. But like little stuff like that, you don't want to worry about when you're just trying to get the work done. All right. That is the end of my notes. Those are all the tips I had. I personally used every single one of them. And I do plan to try the same thing with book number 2 this coming November to see if I'm as successful or might be more successful. If you do have anything else to add about what helps you draft a little faster, please drop it in the comments for me. Or if you have any questions or want to know a little bit more about my process, you can ask that as well. And then don't forget to like and subscribe if you are enjoying my content, because that tells YouTube that you like my content. And then hopefully they will show my video to more viewers so that I can keep doing what I'm doing. All right, y'all. I'll see you next time. Bye. Bye. Why won't this thing turn off? Turn off. Turn off. Again.